My love for Punch-Out is well known. I loved it so much that I chose it to be my very first review about a year and a half ago. Now 133 reviews later, it's still one of my favorite virtual console games. Punch-Out for the Wii is completely faithful to the first one, and is just as fun, if not harder. You play as Little Mac, an unknown fighter who is one by one fighting his way up the ranks of the different divisions, to his final goal of being the best fighter out there. There are a total of 13 fighters in the game, and most of your favorites from the original game come back. Let's start with the graphics, as they look great. They use a cartoonish look in the way they present each of the fighters. The fun mannerisms and clever tells that were in the original game are ramped up in this version, and there's an over-the-top introduction sequence that's always fun to watch. The gameplay is extremely simple. You watch the fighter's moves and you decide when to throw a punch, or when to dodge one. If you anticipate a move quick enough, you might earn a star, which gives you the right to do an uppercut. You can bank up to 3 stars, and the more stars you have, the more powerful the uppercut is. Unfortunately, if you get hit while holding a star, it'll go away, so you can't really save them for too long. You have 3 rounds to knock out your opponent or get a TKO, or win by decision. A TKO is a technical knockout. It's when your opponent hits the floor 3 times in one round. As hard as that may sound, it actually happens quite often in this game. The fighters all have their own personality, and as the match goes on, they'll show signs of physical damage. They'll also get more aggressive as time goes by, so you'll need to be wary of that. After you become the champion, you have to defend your title by refighting all the people you've just defeated. But the opponents will be much tougher to beat this time around. There is a training mode if you need help winning a fight. It was quite helpful when it came to some of the harder fighters in the game. The controls, depending on the control scheme you choose, were either fantastic, alright, or god-awful. If you played the game with the Wiimote sideways, it was a fun game to play because it was clear that's the way the creators wanted you to play it, as it was controlled perfectly. Now, it's when they try and incorporate the ability to put motion controls in the game that it becomes less fun. They give you a control scheme where you can simulate throwing punches by actually doing it with the Wiimote and nunchuck, and it worked okay. The first few fights has worked good enough, but when you need to start doing quick punches, it does get too hard to make it fun. Then there's the control scheme where you could use the balance board to dodge, and the Wiimote and nunchuck to simulate the punches, and it was completely worthless. The balance board just wouldn't read correctly. The problem is that this is just not the type of game to try and simulate a real boxing game, as it's not really a boxing game. It's more of a clever fighter. The boxing part of this game is more for show, as it's pretty much nothing like a real boxing match. And to its credit, that's what makes this game fun to play. In between rounds, they treat you with banter between the coaches and the fighters at each corner. The one thing that I didn't get was Little Mac's conversation is subtitled, but the other fighters aren't. In fact, a lot of the times they spoke a different language. I don't have a problem with that, but they should have translated what they were saying. I really had no idea what they were saying, but I was pretty sure I knew what Glass Joe was saying. I am French, so that means I must give up, for that is what we do. This game is incredibly replayable, but so was the original. They let you complete challenges on each of the fighters, and those challenges could get very complicated and hard, like not being able to dodge a punch or getting a star in a fight, which is not always as easy as it sounds. So it makes even the easiest fighter worth replaying to complete those challenges. There's also a 2-player head-to-head mode. When you played this mode, it just turned it into a normal boxing game, with a little bit of a twist. As you dodge punches, you can fill up a new gauge, and when that is full, you turn into a hulkish representation of your character. It also makes your punches more powerful, but makes you a little bit slower. And the mode only lasts for a little while, and then it wears off. Punch-Out for the Wii is an interesting remake. I call it a remake since the game is basically the same version that you can buy for $5 on the Wii Shop channel. So that makes recommending it a bit hard to do. On one hand, the graphics, presentation, and replayability are outstanding. But on the other hand, you can say the same thing about the original. The question comes down to, is this game worth $50? Yeah, I guess it is. I just wish they had released it at a budget price of $30, since you're really not getting that much more content than the original game. However, the game is still as fun to play now as it was in the 80s. So even at $50, this game is still worth a buy.